What if I told you that clicking on this video was a decision you barely even realized you were making? Not because you aren't paying attention, because the decision was already made before the part of you that pays attention had a chance to weigh in. Your brain moved first. Your awareness arrived second. And this has been happening every day of your life without you noticing. Here is the part that changes everything. That is not a problem. It is a design. In 1983, a neurologist named Benjamin Libet ran an experiment that quietly unsettled the scientific community for decades. Participants sat before a clock and were asked to flex their wrist whenever they felt like it, freely, spontaneously, with no prompt. They were also asked to note the exact position of the clock hand when they first felt the urge to move. Libet measured the electrical activity in their brains throughout. What he found rewrote the standard story of human choice. The brain began preparing the movement roughly 550 milliseconds before the hand flexed. But the participants didn't consciously register the urge until about 200 milliseconds before the movement, more than a third of a second after the brain had already begun. The decision was initiated before the person knew they had decided anything. This became known as the readiness potential. And for many people, the first response to hearing about it is a kind of vertigo. If the brain acts before the conscious mind decides, then who is actually in charge? The answer is more interesting than the question suggests. The unconscious system that initiates your decisions is not a rogue process running against your interests. It is the part of your brain that has spent your entire life learning what you value, what you fear, what has worked before, and what the current moment most resembles. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist and Nobel laureate who mapped the architecture of human thinking, called this System 1, the fast, automatic, pattern-recognizing layer that operates beneath awareness. It is not a shortcut. It is the accumulated intelligence of every experience you have ever had, compressed into something that can respond in milliseconds. When it moves first, it is not bypassing you. It is drawing on everything that makes you who you are. But here is where the picture becomes genuinely useful. A social psychologist named John Bargh spent years at Yale studying how the unconscious mind is shaped by environment. In experiment after experiment, he found that subtle changes in surroundings, the temperature of a cup of coffee held briefly, the words on a wall glimpsed in passing, the smell of a room, produced measurable shifts in how people thought and what they chose, all without any conscious awareness. The unconscious is not sealed. It is exquisitely sensitive to context. It is constantly reading the environment and adjusting the conditions under which it will act. What Bargh's research implies is something quiet and powerful. You may not be the author of every decision at the moment it is made, but you are the architect of the environment that shapes what your unconscious reaches for. The books on your shelves, the people you spend time with, the first thing you look at in the morning, the habits you have constructed around yourself. Every one of these is a silent input into the system that will make your next decision before you know you've made it. This is the part the Libet experiment never tells you directly. The readiness potential fires first, but what it fires toward is not random. It fires toward whatever your life has been quietly building toward. The unconscious is not a mystery force acting against your intentions. It is the sum of every choice you have already made, running forward. You cannot catch every decision before it happens. You were never supposed to. But you can design the life that trains the system that makes the decisions. You can be deliberate about your environment, your inputs, your routines. Not to control each individual choice, but to shape the pattern from which choices emerge. You just made a decision. And now you know something important about what actually made it and how to influence what it will make next.